Okay. Good evening, everyone. Are there any members of the public who are going to speak who aren't represented by council? Okay. Um, I'm going to read the read the posting, the agenda. So this is case number 2024-0607, the William J. Rue Trust. Am I pronouncing that right? And this is their applications to construct and maintain a new 1,727 square foot single-family home, driveway storm water to connect the city utilities, converting the existing 786 square foot historic John Tripp House into a guest house. Goes on to say the proposed new dwelling requires a variance to 650 RICR 2000-1.11C3B, which requires a 50-foot buffer zone. The project additionally requires a variance to section 1.19, which requires a 75-foot construction setback 25 feet beyond the buffer zone. The setback proposed will have 10 feet at its smallest, and the buffer will be 15 feet at its smallest. This is located at Plat 12, Lot 46, 88 Washington Street, Newport, Rhode Island. So we're going to, all the witnesses, please raise their hands. I'm going to swear you in all at once. You all solemnly swear under the pains and penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in the matter now at hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
We could identify those witnesses one by one, just to have them state their names and spell them for the record.
Certainly.
Or we can do that after they come up.
When they come up.
Yeah, that's fine.
Attorney Lynch, you're the applicant. We'll
I am.
let you go first.
I thought that staff was going to give a summary first and then.
Yep. So Anthony Swaya, bio staff at CRMC. As currently proposed, second dwelling at 88 Washington Street, Newport, Rhode Island, Plat 12, Lot 46, will be constructed on an existing single-family lot, which contains an existing historic house known as the John Tripp House, which was relocated to the subject lot in 1965, with an addition being added in 1972. The John Tripp House is listed on the Rhode Island State Register of Historic Buildings. Rhode Island HPHC submitted a final letter dated January 14th, 2025, which states no objection to the most recent submission of the dwelling, plans dated 12/30/24 and 12/31/24. A final signed building official form was received on February 13th, 2025, which confirmed the City of Newport had reviewed the most recent site plans dated 12/30/2024. The proposed dwelling will be 1,727 square feet in size, representing an increase in structural lot coverage of 220%, triggering a full buffer zone of 50 feet with an additional 25-foot setback. The proposed buffer is 25 feet at its maximum, or 50% variant, and 15% at its minimum, 70% variant. The variance to the setback standard requested of 10-foot setback is typical and is standard practice for CRMC to approve administratively. The buffer variance request is greater than 50% of the requirement, therefore needed council review and decision. It is staff's opinion, as detailed within the staff report, that the variance to the buffer zone that is requested is due to the size of the proposed dwelling, is not the minimum necessary, and that the applicant has failed to meet the variance criteria. It is the opinion of the reviewing staff that the failure to construct the proposed dwelling does not represent a hardship. Staff recommended to council that the application not be approved as submitted. Prior to the hearing on 5/13/2025, both the applicant and objectors agreed to send the matter to the hearing officer. The application was not discussed at the May 2025 hearing. The council voted to send the matter to the hearing officer.
Mr. Hearing Officer, if I could have, through the hearing officer, if I could just ask Mr. Sawyer a few questions.
Certainly.
First, Mr. Sawaya, what criteria or policies did you review when you determined that the applicant had not met its burden of proof to obtain the variances?
It's with discussions with staff and director to determine if it meets the criteria laid out in 1.1.7 of the Red Book. And it's discussion really based on the minimum necessary. There's multiple PDs, preliminary determination applications, come in beforehand. And on all those preliminary determinations, staff noted that it did not seem like a minimization. Staff requested to, or recommended to reduce the size of the proposed dwelling to either reduce the variance or to reduce the need for a variance at all. So therefore, we don't think it meets the minimization necessary.
Can I just ask if he reviewed the policies in 1.11?
Yeah, 1.1.11 is the buffer zone. That's what triggers the buffer zone policy. So that was reviewing that to determine if the buffer zone is needed and with the structural lot coverage increase. So the buffer zone was needed because the structural lot increase was 220% greater than the existing lot coverage. So therefore, the full buffer zone of 50 foot is required. Yeah.
I don't have any further questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
I would like to call my first witness, Tom Principe, who is the project engineer on the project. Want to sit over there, Tom?
Yeah.
Jay, do you need any exhibits at this point from the PDF?
I don't need them from the PDF. I have one that I can hand out now. It's a copy of what's already been submitted in the record. So this is a version of the report, of an exhibit to Mr. Rabideau's report.
Just give me a shot when you want me to pull anything up on the computer.
Identification. I think it's one. Attorney Lynch, you want to explain the reason that you're submitting this now?
Yes, this is a summary of reports that were attached to Mr. Rabideau's report. And that report was submitted prior to the deadline. This has just been colorized and it's enlarged just to assist the hearing officer and members to look at the document. It incorporates the same information that is attached to Mr. Rabideau's report.
Attorney Fox, I'm going to note your objection, but I'm going to allow it, seeing as it really appears to me to just be to assist the parties and the hearing officer, given that Attorney Lynch said it's just a better version of what Mr. Rabideau submitted. I'm going to allow it. Yeah, I marked it plaintiff's 1 for ID.
So first, Mr. Principe, if you want to address the hearing officer with your qualifications.
Again,
Mr. Parks, Attorney Parks, do you have, I'm not going to qualify any of the witnesses as experts. His testimony will be what it is. I'll give it the according weight. Do you have any objection to him testifying without meeting all his qualifications? Thank you.
just state my name for the record. Again, Thomas J. Principe III, registered professional engineer, Principe Engineering.
Mr. Principe, you're the engineer on this project.
That's correct.
If you can briefly describe to the hearing officer the existing conditions on the subject site.
Oh, sure, no problem. Again, this subject property is 88 Washington Street. It's located in an R10 residential zone in a historic district. As we all know here this evening, there's an existing property, existing building that resides on this property, the Trip House. It's approximately 779 square foot footprint. And again, it's structural lot coverage is in the forms of CRMC, not zoning purposes, but in the purposes of structural lot coverage is 779 square feet. The entire property is mainly lawn. It's cleared down to the coastal feature. The property itself is 13,919 square feet. The coastal feature is composed of some metal sheathing retaining wall along 3 sides of it. And if you can see on some of the schematics and site plans that have been submitted for the record, one of the unique geometric characteristics of this lot is the coastal feature protrudes out into that type 2 low intensity waters. Unlike other properties to the north and south, on the north side of this property, it protrudes out approximately, I don't have an exact dimension, but it exceeds more than 40 feet on the north side. On the south side.
Mr. Principe, let me
Sure.
introduce this
That's
exhibit,
great.
which I think follows up on your
Sure.
testimony right now.
Yep.
Two, plaintiffs, 2. Thank you.
And again, just for the record, as Attorney Lynch had stated, these exhibits are just color renderings of what was already submitted, just to kind of help with the visual.
So if you can, again, just the hearing officer, address the unique characteristics of the subject lot with respect to the
Sure.
front.
Just to kind of reiterate, just to go back now that you have that visual. Again, as I was saying, on 3 sides, we have a metal sheathing, man-made retaining wall. It's not a natural shoreline. It is a man-made shoreline. We're on type 2 waters for low intensity use. Again, what's very unique about this property is it protrudes out into the water, 40 plus feet on the north side and over 50 feet to almost 60 feet on the south side. There is a public access and beach to the south side of this property itself. So when you measure your setbacks and your buffer zones, it really prohibits us with that dimension itself. As you can kind of see on the plan, I can kind of go through the outline of the color rendering, which is, again, was submitted for the record, but this color rendering is just to kind of alleviate some of the setbacks, because there are a lot of setbacks and buffers that are associated with this property. And again, Attorney Lynch, I can start to go through that if you'd like.
Please do.
But again, just to reiterate the existing conditions, it is all cleared down to the man-made shoreline. There is no buffer zone, no water quality treatment, no BMP associated with the existing building. And also along the street, nor I think it's important to note that along Washington Street, there are no natural man-made buffers or any drainage mitigational measures that are implemented on any of these properties. So with that, just kind of getting into some of the proposed items on the property here. Again, as stated earlier, we have a proposed 727 square foot footprint. Again, that's going to be the proposed SLC of this new detached single-family dwelling. And there will be a driveway off to the north and a patio facing west, and also a walkway on Washington Street. All of those materials will be porous or pervious, as some people would say, just to kind of promote water recharge and surface water runoff. The other B&P element, which is again one of the policies of the CRMC and some of the variance criteria, is we will have a full stormwater BMP for all of the runoff from the roof. Again, there is no existing stormwater system on the property. We are proposing a full stormwater treatment system for all of the roof. All the roof gutters are going to be tied into a underground stormwater system off to the west side of the project on the down gradient side. Again, the other important item to know,
Where will the water drain
to an underground storm water drainage mitigation system.
on the lot?
Correct, on our lot, yes. Yep. The other important thing to note too is, as stated before, with a lot this size and the type 2 waters, again, we understand that the SLC increase is at 220%, which would require full buffer. We understand that. On the plans, I just want to identify that we show the regulatory 50-foot CRMC buffer that's outlined in black and labeled as such. And typically with that, you would have a 50-foot planted buffer as on top of a 25-foot setback to any sort of structure. So essentially 75 feet off of a coastal feature itself. That line is also shown in red as a 25-foot setback to the buffer. So those are the two 100% setback that we're trying to comply with, that we're unfortunately not able to. What we are proposing is a variable width 25-foot planted buffer, again, which is 50% of the requirement. And again, that is outlined in a dark green on the color rendering along the coast. That will obviously be mixed buffer planting with shrubs and seeds mix. Again, CRMC obviously has a list of plants and shrubs that they prefer to see, and that's something that we will outline. The other thing to note is there is a section of that buffer due to the house that needs a 10-foot setback off of the buffer itself. It gets a little confusing just because of some of the policies and correspondence we've had with CRMC. Is we don't want to have a planted buffer up to the house itself. So we need some room for maintenance of that buffer. So you'll see that on the north side and the south side, we had to take 10 feet out of the buffer just for access and egress maintenance.
In the, on the northeast corner,
Mhm.
showing a large circle, is that the London
Yes,
plane tree?
correct. Yes.
Could you tell me about the London plane tree?
In specifics to.
Well, I mean, it's a, not a native.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Yep.
And is the tree going to stay? Or are they removing it?
Yes, we're proposing, yes, keep it. Attorney Lynch, is there anything else you want me to elaborate on?
Yeah, well, let's go to the first exhibit, which is the general site of the other properties on the waterfront.
Mhm.
Does the subject property present any unique characteristics that are not common to the other lots that create a hardship with respect to the buffer and setback?
So again, no, it conforms to the existing conditions of the neighborhood itself. So if you look at the neighborhood as a whole along Washington Street and you analyze all of the existing properties with the SLC and the setbacks to the coastal feature, that schematic just kind of gives you a visual showing that all of the existing houses along Washington Street, again, we have 96 Washington is 31 feet from the coastal feature with no buffer, no stormwater treatment, no water quality. Again, it's a 5-bedroom house, very, very large house.
Number 90,
96 Washington, right. We evaluate all of them, and rather than going through each one, I just, again, just understanding, there's one other property, it looks like on 62 Washington, that's a 6-bedroom house. It's only 35 feet from the coastal feature itself. So again, no stormwater treatment, no planted buffer, no water quality, no mitigational measures implemented on that.
do you know when those houses were built?
Yeah, so yeah, 62 Washington, they're all historic houses. That was built in the 1700s. And it's one important thing to note is we did
So
look,
they,
yeah,
the two that you've cited, 62 and 96, those houses predate RMC's.
they do,
existence.
yes, they do, yes. Now, I do know there's been some work done to 96, but again, they were underneath the 50%. Another point to that was just, again, we just kind of looked at from Battery Park to the north, down to Elm Street. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So it was about a dozen houses along that road. And again, not, given the age, I understand that just there is not one property that has any sort of stormwater treatment or any planted buffer.
Mr. Principe, do you have an opinion as to whether water quality entering Newport Harbor will improve if this application is granted?
Yes, it will improve the water quality. Yes.
And is that because of the vegetative buffer and your stormwater features?
Both, because right now, again, we still have an existing structure on the property and no buffers and whatnot. So again, that stormwater is going untreated into the bay.
I don't have any further questions for Mr. Principe.
Attorney Park?
I'll turn my seat over to Mr. Park.
Good evening, Mr. Principe. How are you?
Good evening, well, yourself?
Good, thank you. A couple of follow-up questions from what Attorney Lynch asked you. Let's start with Exhibit 1, and I will begin just about where the hearing officer had left off. You have listed at the top of Exhibit 1, again, which we're seeing for the first time this evening, 12 different properties that are fronting the water side on Washington Street. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And are you aware of the year CRMC was created?
Yes.
What year is that?
I believe in 1972, 73,
71, you're close.
71.
Of these 12 properties, how many post-date the creation of CRMC?
I believe a majority of them, all of them.
Post-date, not predate.
Oh, post-date, so none of them.
So these properties that predate CRMC obviously did not have to satisfy CRMC's regulations. Is that fair to say?
Actually, I'm sorry. It looks like 2 of them, I'm just looking at some of the information that we pulled. 100 Washington Street to the north and 102 Washington Street. It looks like those were constructed in 1987.
So 2 of the 12 post-date CRMC.
It looks like that, yes.
So only 2 of the 12 would have needed to meet whatever regulations CRMC had in place at the time in 1987 when they were built, correct?
Yes.
Sticking with Exhibit 1 for a minute, can you identify any parcels that have 2 houses on one lot?
2 houses. I don't know if I can, no.
And looking at the 2 houses that do postdate the creation of CRMC, the 2 northernmost properties, are those parcels further or closer to the water than your proposed house?
Let's see, 100 Washington Street, and again, these are approximate numbers, so we obviously didn't do Class 1 surveys. This is based on GIS aerial information and applicable maps. Looks like 100 Washington Street is 66 feet from the coastal feature, and 102 is 76 feet from the coastal feature.
Which is further away than what you're proposing, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Lynch had asked you about some of the unique characteristics of the property. Do you recall that line of
Ye-
questioning?
Yes.
And you said it's a man-made shoreline on 3 bases, correct?
Yes.
Are you aware of how that man-made shoreline was created?
Structurally, I'm not sure I understand the question.
Sure, let me help you. Are you aware that a large part of the lawn on this property was created by driving a barge into the shore in the 1950s?
No, not aware of that.
You're not aware of that,
No.
okay. So as
You're
part,
speaking of 88 now?
I'm speaking of 88. Yep. Can we pull up what would be my Exhibit F? And we can zoom in, yeah, a little bit. Mr. Princeby, are you able to read what's on the screens in front of you?
Not the words, no.
Okay. Mark, is there any way we can make that a little bigger? I can give you a hard copy if that's easier.
Okay, yeah, you have a. Oh, thanks.
And I apologize, it's that second bullet point. So the former owner says enlarge the south lot by bringing in a barge and anchoring it to the property, then filling the land with whatever materials he could obtain. Many of the pointers complained about the mess. So you were not aware of how this lawn came to be.
I was not.
So is it fair to say then you're not aware of what fill might be on the property?
No,
When you were designing your stormwater the stormwater BMP that we see indicated on Exhibit 2, did you do any soil testing in that area?
we have done some soil testing in the area, shallow testing, yes.
Shallow testing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I didn't see that indicated on this plan.
Yeah, that information is not on that plan, no.
And you testify, or you mentioned when I objected to the introduction of Exhibit 2, that this was just a colorized version of the plans that had been to CRMC, correct?
Yes,
And if we look at Exhibit 2, it correctly indicates both the 50-foot CRMC full buffer and then the 25-foot CRMC full setback, correct? In black and red respectively?
correct, yes, the 100-foot setback. I mean, the 100% setback, yes.
But the plans that you submitted to CRMC didn't indicate those setbacks, did they?
I can review that.
Yep, we can pull those up. Those are in the thumb drive. If you look at applicant exhibits, Mark, and then it's Principe plans or presentation or something like that. And I believe it's let's go to the second one. That might be proposed conditions.
I have it pulled up. It looks like the 50-foot CRMC setback was on that plan.
And you never indicate the 25-foot construction setback beyond the buffer, correct?
Correct.
On the plans that were submitted to CRMC.
That's correct.
And and you can review it if you need to, but if you go and look at the staff report, I believe the operative plans that we're dealing with here were last modified by you December 30, 2024. Does that accord with your memory?
Yep.
So the plans that CRMC reviewed in their possession that staff opined on did not correctly indicate the full setback, correct?
I disagree with that. Because again, there is a 25-foot on top of the 50. So again, just because it was at the top of the lot and past this single family dwelling, we had decided just not to show that and articulate that through a report. So it's not on actually our plans.
So you disagree with staff's conclusion in their report that the buffer and setback lines were not properly indicated on your plans?
Again, no, it was not shown on the plans, no.
Okay, so was the 25-foot setback from the 50-foot buffer, in other words, 75 feet from the coastal feature, was that line shown on the plans that you submitted to CRMC?
No, no.
Thank you.
Nope.
When Mr. Lynch was questioning you, you referenced some of the neighboring properties and their sizes and how many bedrooms they had. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes,
Are you aware of CRMC regulations that allow you to essentially do what your neighbors did as opposed to meet the operative standards in place at the time?
no.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Prince.
Thank you.
If I could call Scott Rabideau as my next witness, please. Mr. Rabideau, if you could introduce yourself to the hearing officer, please.
Sure, Mr. Hearing Officer, my name is Scott Rabideau. That's spelled Rabideau. I am certified as a professional wetland scientist. I've been practicing as a coastal and a freshwater wetland biologist in Rhode Island for over 40 years. I need to make it clear for the record that the report that was submitted by Natural Resource Services, Inc., which was my company. I have retired. I retired in June of 2025.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It was well deserved, trust me. And I have dissolved Natural Resource Services, Inc. So I am appearing here tonight as a sole practitioner, but I was the author of the report that's here. So it was appropriate that, I continue to follow up on this project for the ruse. I just wanted to make that clear, so there's no confusion on that.
Mr. Rabideau, before we get into your report, the Exhibit 1 that was submitted, is that a compilation of two exhibits that you have attached to your report?
That's correct. So what Mr. Principe's staff did was they took figures 3 and 4 from the report that Natural Resource Services did and combined that onto their site plan and showed everything. So all of the information that's presented on that plan is in the record. It's just, it was compiled as one graphic for demonstrative purposes for the hearing officer.
Included in the record is your report that you submitted to CRMC outlining the criteria for the requested variance, correct?
Correct.
Can you summarize and or highlight the important points of that report to the hearing officer?
I can, and I am going to apologize in advance, Mr. Hearing Officer, because due to the contested nature of this matter, I feel that I need to get into the minutia of the Coastal Resource Management Program and outline everything for you that is required of this application, and not all of it was addressed in the staff report. So I just feel that it's very important for me to do that. In the staff report, staff points out that there are 9 sections of the coastal program that are applicable to this project. Those 9 sections include 1.1.6G, 1.1.7, which are variances. 6G is substantive objections. 1.1.9, which are setbacks. 1.1.11, which are coastal buffer zones. 1.2.1C, as in Charlie, which are type 2 waters. 1.2.2, coastal headlands. 1.3.1C, residential commercial structures. 1.3.1F, treatment of sewage and stormwater. And 1.2.3, areas of historic and archaeological significance. Now, of these 9 sections, I'm going to address 4 of them. And the reason for that is, number one, the substantive objections is, something that the attorneys have worked on and discussed. The variance criteria will be the last part of my testimony. The setbacks, the CRMC staff, even at the hearing tonight, have opined that the 10-foot setback can be approved administratively, so it's really not a contested issue with the CRMC staff. I'm going to speak to coastal buffer zones, type 2 waters, coastal headlands, and areas of historic and archaeological significance. And again, 1.3.1, residential, commercial, and industrial structures. Staff had said we satisfy that in the report. And 1.3.1F, for treatment of stormwater and sewerage, staff has said we've satisfied that. So it's.
Could you just repeat those again, please?
Say that again, please.
Could you just repeat the ones that are addressed by the staff?
Sure. 1.1.9 setbacks. 1.3.1C, as in Charlie, residential, commercial, and industrial structures. 1.3.1F, as in Frank, treatment of sewage and stormwater.
Thank you, Mr. Rabideau.
You're welcome. So on the first variance criteria question, the applicant is responsible to demonstrate that the project is consistent with the goals and policies of the CRMP, Coastal Resource Management Program. Staff made the comment that the proposal does not conform to the goals and policies. It was a blanket proposal. It was a blanket statement, but there was no explanation within the staff report as to why it doesn't meet any of the goals and policies. So it's incumbent on the applicant to address the goals and policies of each of those 4 program requirements, those 4 sections. And that's what I did in my report. And that's what I want to point out to the hearing officer. So the first section is coastal buffer zones. Now the staff notes.
Again, that section is?
1.1.11. In the staff report, the staff notes that the standards haven't been met, and that's the reason for the variance. We don't meet the 50-foot buffer zone or the 25-foot setback. but staff doesn't point out the values or the goals and policies of section 1.1.11. Within that section, B1 states the 6 values for coastal buffer zones. And those are the protection of water quality, protection of coastal habitat, protection of scenic and aesthetic quality, erosion control, flood control, and protection of historic and archaeological resources. So what we spoke to in my report from Natural Resource Services was, number one, that water quality standards were done in accordance with the Rhode Island Stormwater Manual's exemption for single-family homes. So Mr. Principe's design meets the manual for Rhode Island stormwater. So that water quality issue has been met pursuant to state rules and regulations. As Mr. Principe pointed out in his testimony, the coastal feature is a sheet pile bulkhead. So the sheet pile bulkhead, there's no coastal habitat immediately adjacent to that. It's a sheet pile bulkhead and then it's tidal waters. So the issue of coastal habitat being protected is there because there's a lack of coastal habitat that's there. Protection of scenic and aesthetic quality, I will speak to because in my report, I not only address that section of the regulations, I speak to the historic and archaeological significance, but I also go into the program's requirement for scenic and aesthetic quality. And I'll get to that when I get to 1.2.3. I'm retired. I haven't done this in a long time, so I apologize. Erosion control. The plan has and will, be designed in accordance with the Rhode Island Erosion Control Manual. So sedimentation and erosion control during construction of the project will be in full force. The fact that we're restoring buffer zone does improve the overall quality of the site for controlling erosion. Right now, as Mr. Principe pointed out, you have mowed lawn right to the coastal feature. Were there an episodic event where erosion, upgrade happened, it would have a direct path right into the water. We're going to restore, for the most part, 25 feet of buffer zone with a dense shrub planting, and that will improve the overall ability of this site for erosion control, should there be that type of.
Known in,
The dark green? That is correct.
that will all be planted densely.
That's correct. And that plan was submitted to the CRMC staff as part of the application. Oh, and as an aside, Mr. Hearing Officer, you pointed out about the tree. That is actually a 48-inch diameter tree. And back in 2021, I ID'd it as a sycamore maple. So it's a very good sized tree that will remain
Sycamore maple.
sycamore maple. Hopefully I'm right on that, but that's how I ID'd it in 2021.
So other parts of the report, what characterize it as a London plain, PLAIN.
Okay, it's similar. It's a similar species, but like I said, I'm not a ornamental botanist. So
But you've been in that business 23 years.
yeah,
so
yeah, I thought it was a sycamore maple.
Thank you.
I checked my notes when you asked the question, and that's what I had in my notes.
Okay.
Flood control is the next of the 6 values.
And what section is that?
This is still under section 1.1.11
Okay.
B1. And, on the flood control issues, the staff made, no issues about whether or not this was in a coastal floodplain. Again, we're going to provide stormwater for all new impervious surfaces. So the issue of flood control, Mr. Principe and his staff have addressed and wasn't brought out as an objectionable issue by the CRMC engineer. And finally, the sixth value for buffer zones are the protection of historic and archaeological resources. And again, that gets into a specific section of the coastal management program, which is 1.2.3, which I'll get to. So in my report, we basically noted that we met the goals and policies of the coastal buffer zone section of the regulations. The next section of the regulations are type 2 waters, which is section 1.2.1C. The policy within type 2 waters is to maintain and, where possible, restore high scenic value, protect water quality, and restore wildlife habitat, or protect and restore wildlife habitat values. So this project, and again, when I speak to the scenic values, the Coastal Resource Management Program has a specific section that requires the Rhode Island Historic and Preservation, HPHE, Historical Preservation and Heritage Commission, to address the scenic values of properties within their jurisdiction that are considered within a historic district. And the HPHC, which is the acronym for that agency, actually pointed out that, and I'll read it from their letter. While the height of the new building remains unchanged, and I'm reading from a January 14th, 2025 correspondence, Rhode Island Historical Preservation and Heritage Commission, signed by its executive director, Jeffrey Amity. This is the 4th paragraph, last sentence. While the height of the new building remains unchanged, it is not inconsistent with other historic homes on the street, and the colonial revival design is appropriate for the area. So because the design of the structure is appropriate for the area, when viewed from the water, it's consistent with the goals for aesthetic quality that the CRMP maintains.
That's the January 14 letter from,
That's correct. As far as water quality in type 2 waters, I've already addressed that under the buffer zone standard, and that information, again, is contained within the Principe documentation that the staff has reviewed. The wildlife habitat values, what I point out in my report is that the current state of the land is maintained lawn down to the coastal feature. So there is very minimal, if any, wildlife habitat value to that 50-foot section that should be buffer zone with this project. We're proposing a variable width buffer that meets the square footage of a full 25-foot buffer. And within that variable width buffer, we will, again, propose to restore it with dense shrubs and herbaceous plantings that will allow to convert into a coastal buffer zone. It will go unmaintained, and it will be a naturalized habitat. So in the post condition, there will actually be habitat values as opposed to the current condition. So again, my report points out that that is consistent with type 2 waters. The next section of the regulations is 1.2.2D, coastal headlands. Now, the policies stated within the CRMC for coastal headlands relate to the protection of bluffs and headlands as a source of sand for beaches. The language actually reads, to manage these systems as valuable sources of sediment for Rhode Island beaches. Well, this doesn't apply to this lot. This lot has a sheet pile revetment. The lots to the north and the south are also armored. In fact, I had calculated 2,700 linear feet of shoreline armoring along the point section of Newport, and that extends from Goat Island north to Battery Park. So the policies for coastal headlands just are not relevant to this property because it's all armored. There's no opportunity for, the headland to provide a source of sediment for beaches. Under the goals for coastal headlands, the goals are to protect cliffs and bluffs. That's obviously not applicable. The next goal is to prevent any construction in the contiguous area of a cliff or a bluff, which may weaken the feature or create a hazard. Again, that's not applicable. The third goal for coastal headlands are to preserve the scenic and ecological values of these features. And as I've pointed out, the scenic value that will result from this project is consistent with another section of the Coastal Resource Management Program. And the ecological values are consistent with what I explained on the improvement of wildlife habitat on the site at the post-project, because we're restoring that 25-foot buffer zone. So the scenic value is responded to specifically on page 9 of my report. And it's a section of the Coastal Resource Management Program, section 1.3.5, policies for the protection and enhancement of scenic value of the coastal region. One of the specific one of the general policies listed in this section of the Red Book is specific to properties which contain historic features, and that's subsection A4. And the policies state that on sites in or adjacent to historic features and districts, new structures should be designed to provide continuity with the existing scenic and historic character. As I pointed out, the letter from HPHC identifies this design as being consistent with the design of the neighborhood. So again, because we meet this policy for the CRMP's scenic value in the coastal region, all of the additional questions or all of the additional goals within other sections are therefore met. And finally the final section is 1.2.3 areas of historic and archaeological significance. The staff report acknowledges that the HPHC reviewed the most recent plans and issued an updated letter dated 1/14/25. And the staff goes on to state, which states no objection to the most recent submission of the dwelling. The actual language of the letter is a little different, and I'd like to read it. And this is the 5th paragraph of the letter. And it reads, based on the design alterations that have been instituted and taking into account the approval of the previous design by the Newport District Commission, we no longer object to CRMC issuing the permit. So that is a blanket statement by the HPHC that they would not object to this permit being issued by the Coastal Resource Management Council. And I think that's important to point out both to the hearing officer and for the record that it's in there. So taking all of this into account, my report regarding the first variance criteria, I know it's taken me a long time to get there. I basically stated that, we feel that the applicant's plan is consistent with the goals and policies of the CRMP.
I don't have any further questions, Mr. Rabideau.
Parks?
Good evening, Mr. Rabideau. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So I have several questions for you. I'd like to walk through your report. I know you just testified in a narrative fashion about it, but let's see if we can tease out some of the opinions contained therein. Do you have a copy of your report before you?
I
Or
do.
you need? So let's start somewhere where you left off about historical significance. At page 5 of your report, paragraph 2, you note that under section 1.2.3 of the Red Book, review is required because it's an area of historic significance, correct?
So you're going to have to repeat that, and I do apologize, my hearing isn't the best,
No
so,
worries. Paragraph 2 on page 5.
okay. Got it.
And review under section 1.2.3 of the Red Book is required because it's an area of historic significance, correct?
Correct.
And you would agree that this property is in an area of historic significance, correct?
That is what's been stated in the HPHC letter, and so I would agree with that, sure.
Okay.
I'm not an expert on where the historic district is.
Okay, but
so
you just,
I rely on others for that.
okay, but you opined in your report regarding this area of historic
I did.
significance, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we go to the relevant section of the Red Book, 1.2.3.A.1, it tells us the very first policy of the council. The council's goal is to, where possible, preserve and protect significant historic and archaeological properties, correct? And we can put, if you need me to put the language of the Red Book before you, I'm happy to
It'd be
do
a
so.
good idea. I don't have the Red Book memorized.
Sure.
So I refer to it, and I will believe you that that's what it states.
Okay, so I guess let's do it that way. I'll ask you to accept my quotes as accurate, and if you have questions on that, I am happy to put
We
the
can
text
bring it up.
before you. Is that
Mhm.
fair? And the second goal of 1.2.3 tells us that preservation of significant historic and archaeological properties is a high priority use in the coastal region, correct?
Correct.
And so you would agree that these policies inform the review that CRMC undertakes of any application before it, correct?
Repeat that, please.
So you would agree that these policies set forth in the Red Book, these goals, inform the review that CRMC undertakes of any application before it, correct?
Correct.
Including this one, correct?
Correct.
And as part of that process, as you just testified to, CRMC solicits input from the RIHPHC, correct?
They more than solicit input. If you get a negative recommendation from the Rhode Island Historic Preservation and Heritage Commission, the application stops. So yes, they solicit input, but that input is integral to the decision of the Coastal Resource Management Program.
Sure, and again, I'm happy to put the text before you, but will you accept my representation that the actual text of the Red Book requires CRMC to solicit the input of RIHPHC?
Correct.
Okay. Would you also agree with me, and you can take your time to review the Red Book if you need to, that nowhere does it require CRMC to follow the recommendation of RIHPHC?
I would have to do research on that. I have practiced, as I stated earlier, for 40 years. And it is the policy of the Coastal Resource Management Council, because I've had numerous projects that have run into this, that if there is an objection to the project design from HPHC, it goes no further until that is satisfied. And I could probably, if given enough time, find you numerous letters from the staff stating such.
So I appreciate that answer, but that really wasn't my question.
That's okay.
My question was, is there text in the Red Book of which you are aware that requires CRMC to follow RIHPHC's recommendation?
I am not aware of it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And you quoted from RIHPHC's, I believe it's a 2019 letter, whatever that date was. That's
2025.
2025 letter. Thank you. And are you aware that there was an earlier letter from RIH PHC regarding this project?
Yes, I think the language that I quoted stated such that, the design changes that were made, it's the last paragraph, based on the design alterations that have been instituted. So it was that discussion, and that perfectly goes to your question previously about, whether or not, the CRMC staff, how they address this. I mean, they needed to get a design before Historic Preservation and Heritage that was acceptable to them before this would move forward.
Sitting here today, are you aware of what those design changes are?
No, that's not within my purview as an expert.
So it's within your purview as an expert to bless the recommendations of RIH PHC, but not to inquire as to the underpinning of those decisions?
No, my purview as an expert is to apply, not bless. I apply the recommendations of the HPHC onto the application and into the goals and policies that I stated. Each goal and policy that speaks to the visual and aesthetic quality has to be taken into account because this is in a historic district, as you point out. And the section that I quoted states that in the historic district has to be consistent, right? Go to page 9 of my report. We'll read it again to you. On sites, and this is quoting subsection A4 of section 1.3.5 of the CRMP. On sites in or adjacent to historic features and districts, new structures should be designed to provide continuity with the existing scenic and historic character. So the HPHC letter states that this is consistent with historic homes on the street and the colonial revival design is appropriate for the area. So I don't bless it, as you pointed out. I apply it to this section of the regulations and bring it before the hearing officer so he can take it in as evidence.
Mark, would you mind pulling up an exhibit? We go to objectors exhibits. It is not one of the A through H exhibits that I circulated earlier. However, it is a document that's contained in the CRMC record. So I don't believe there should be any objection to it. It's that folder, objectors exhibits, and it's exhibit I, RIH PHC letter. And I would ask that this be received as an exhibit. Right, thanks.
Josh, sorry to interrupt. Is that already part of the record?
Yes, I excerpted it just for ease of use.
Understood. If it's
Yeah.
already part of the record, then we don't need to ask for it.
Super, great. Can we scroll down to the third paragraph on this letter? Sorry, fourth. It's the last one on this first page. There we go. And Mr. Rabideau, I'll represent to you that this is that earlier RIH PHC letter, which predated the one that you referenced in your report. Do you accept that?
Yes.
Okay, great. And in the last paragraph of that first page, it says the roof. The roof ridge of the new building will be 9 feet 2 inches taller than the ridge of the trip house. The floor to floor heights will differ by nearly 4 feet. Do you see that? Do you see that sentence?
Oh, I do. My eyes are pretty good
Are you probably
with
better
the
than,
glasses.
probably better than mine? Is it news to you that the new design does not change the roof height of the trip house?
Again, the relevance of your
So
statement.
I'm going to cut you off there because that wasn't my question. It was a yes or no question.
Go ahead then. Ask it again.
Are you aware that the redesign of the trip house does not change that roof line?
I am not aware.
Okay, thank you. And you mentioned that the plans received City of Newport HDC approval, correct?
Restate that.
received Historic District Commission approval, correct?
Correct.
Are you aware that that approval is the subject of a live appeal before the Superior Court?
No,
Okay, so it's news to you that a final determination as to whether or not that approval was proper has yet to be made?
and again, that's not relevant to what I do in terms of creating a variance report for the Coastal Resource Management Council. We're here, so
Moving to regulatory requirements, which are on the bottom of page 5 and top of page 6 of your report. This is where you acknowledge that this project requires a 50-foot buffer and then an additional 25-foot construction setback, correct?
correct.
And you reviewed as part of your preparation, I assume you reviewed the plans submitted to CRMC?
Yes,
And this is going to be the questions I asked Mr. Principe, and I know that your figure 4 identifies the setbacks correctly, but did you see the correct setback and buffer lines on the plans submitted by Mr. Principe?
the plans submitted by Mr. Principe showed a 25-foot buffer zone. That was the proposed buffer zone. It wasn't the required buffer zone. So you are correct. The plan did not show the required buffer zone. It showed a 25-foot buffer zone, which is what we propose as a 50% reduction. And we also clearly noted that there was one section of that 25-foot buffer zone where we couldn't get there. We couldn't get to 25 feet. We could only get to 15 feet, and that was due to the unique characteristics of the site, which is another of the variance criteria questions. And just to elaborate, because he's looking at stuff and I'll keep talking.
No, honestly, that's
the-
quite all right. If you'd like to keep elaborating, I'm sure your counsel can draw that
Okay.
testimony out of you. And you acknowledge in your report that this application should meet category B requirements of the Red Book, correct?
That is correct.
And in fact, if you look at page 6 of your report, you address those requirements that are listed in subparts A through K of 1.3.1.A.1, correct?
That is correct.
And we'll look at those, but before we do so, the Red Book lists additional criteria for category B activities that are not contained in subparts A through K, correct?
Correct.
So for example, and again, we can put this before if you need it, but section C of 1.3.1 of the Red Book addresses residential, commercial, industrial, and recreational structures. And you would agree that we're talking about a residential structure here, correct?
Correct.
And your report does not specifically address the requirements of 1.3.1C, does it?
It does not, but I pointed out to the hearing officer that the staff also agreed in their staff report that it wasn't applicable. No, I'm sorry, that it was applicable, but it was met.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about it anyway. Subpart B of 1.3.1.C.2 requires that applicants proposing new construction shall demonstrate that they satisfy all applicable requirements of the state building code. Does that sound fair to you?
Correct.
And can we put up what I've marked as exhibit, might be B, Mark, it's the building.
Attorney Parks, you were talking about 1.3.1
Point C, point 2.
C.2, residential, commercial, residential, recreational structures?
Yep.
And this is the prereqs.
Yep.
And what was the
It's,
category after
so the
that?
subcategories are A and B.
and B.
You know, we were just talking about B, which is applicants proposing new construction and all alterations to existing structures shall demonstrate that all applicable requirements of the RI State Building Code, you know, so on and so forth, have been met. Oh, I'm sorry, Mark, that's the city council recommendation. building official form. I can hand over a copy. That's easier. Yes. That's. If you go up to that folder. Great, that's the current one. Okay, so up before, are you familiar with these forms, Mr. Abidu?
Yes,
And these are the forms that CRMC requires to show that all local approvals have been met before CRMC will essentially take up the matter, correct?
correct.
And have you in fact seen this form before in this case?
I have not.
All right, so this form is new to you.
Correct.
If we look at if we scroll down just a little bit and we see a check mark next to the line that says the building official finds the issuance of a local building permit is required, and I hereby certify that this permit shall be issued once the applicant demonstrates that the proposed construction fully conforms, correct?
I see that, yes.
And then even though it's checked off, you see, please note structural plans will need to conform ASCE 24-14 at plan review before permit approval. Do you see that?
I do see that.
Do you know what ASCE 24-14 is?
No.
So if I represented to you that was flood resistant design and construction standards, that would be new to you?
I believe you.
Okay. So it seems from this form, at least, that there's still something to be done before the building official will sign off. Is that fair to say?
So I guess my
What's the
question.
objection?
Yeah,
Well, if Mr. Rabideau is an expert and he's opining that all the local standards have been met, I think it's fair to question him on that topic.
I'll gladly answer it. The CRMC
Oh,
accepted the application with that documentation. I mean, that question is appropriate for Mr. Sawaya. He accepted it and they moved forward. In the staff report, they state that they showed it to the staff engineer, the principal engineer for the CRMC, and he said it was acceptable. So you can ask me, in terms of my opinion, but the record should reflect that that's an appropriate question for the CRMC staff.
So I appreciate your thoughts on to whom the question should be directed, but it's directed to you and not to CRMC, which is
my
reading,
response-
which is reading this. Do you believe that all local approvals have in fact been obtained, or are there some that remain extant?
I have to believe they have been met because the CRMC accepted the application, and that's a requirement of an application.
Okay. So let's turn back to the category B applications that your report does talk about, those contained in 1.3.1.A.1. Subpart A requires the applicant to demonstrate the need for the proposed.
Sorry, what page are you on in my report?
Back to the bottom of page 6.
Bottom of page 6?
Yep, we're going A through K on the category B requirements.
Okay.
And subpart A requires that the applicant demonstrate the need for the proposed activity or alteration, correct?
Correct.
And you say that the need's been demonstrated essentially because, quote, this historic home cannot be demolished or reconstructed so as to meet minimally acceptable building standards, correct?
Correct.
Are you aware that the applicant has thoroughly renovated the trip house?
Say that again, please.
Are you aware that the applicant has thoroughly renovated the trip house?
I'm aware of that because it was in the CRMC staff report, yes.
Okay. So do you have an opinion as to if the home was renovated as to whether or not it was done to minimally acceptable building standards?
One more time. Go ahead, ask the question again.
Can you read it back?
Oh, I do not have an opinion. Thank you. I can understand you much better. it's the, it's the reverb of the microphone. And I wear hearing aids, so I do apologize. I'm not doing this for any purpose other than I really need to understand your question. So yeah, my apologies. And thank you.
So, and can I get your answer, please?
I said I'm not aware. What-
Okay.
I answered it, didn't I?
So you're probably not aware that applicant's architect called it a stunning restoration in an email to CRMC either then?
I'm not aware of what? Yeah.
That the restored trip house, that the restored trip house was called a stunning restoration.
Oh.
In an email that's in the CRMC file. Is that news to you?
It's news to me. I'm not aware of that.
Did you review the staff report as part of your preparation?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see the addendum to the staff report that contained an apartments.com listing the trip house for rent for $16,000 a month?
I did see that.
Does that indicate to you one way or the other whether the home might meet minimally acceptable building standards if it's renting for $16,000 a month?
That's not within my purview as a coastal or freshwater wetland biologist to answer in an expert capacity.
Okay. But it is within your purview to opine as to whether or not applicant has demonstrated a need, correct?
Correct.
Is it your testimony that applicant needs two homes on this parcel?
My hesitancy is with the word needs.
We can answer
I
if
mean, the
you,
Rhode
if
Island,
you
the Rhode
know.
Island General Assembly basically is encouraging people to do accessory dwelling units in the state of Rhode Island on any size property. So it is a opportunity for people to be able to have two residences on properties as encoded in state law.
So, I mean, we could talk about ADUs if you would like. Are you aware of size requirements for ADUs?
They vary, but I believe the minimum now is 900 square feet.
Do you know the size of the living area of the proposed house?
Square footage. It's
No, I'm not asking about the
I
1727
don't know
square
I
footage.
don't know the living area. I know the square footage of the trip house.
Okay.
It's listed in all the reports.
All right, but let's do a little quick math here. So it's a 1,727 square footprint of the new house,
That's
correct?
the new house,
Of the new house, correct?
correct?
And it's got 2 stories, correct?
That's one,
And it's got 2 stories, correct?
correct.
Okay, and that's not even counting below grade garage space, correct?
That's right.
So we're up over 3,500 square feet for those 2 living
With 2
spaces, correct?
stories, sure.
Okay. And there's already a house on the property, correct?
But the house on the property is less than 900 square feet, so that can be considered an ADU under state standard.
Are you an expert on ADUs?
No, you asked
Okay.
me the question about need, and I am very well versed at regulatory requirements for ADUs because they've become prevalent in the regulatory world of both freshwater wetlands and the Coastal Resource Management Council.
Are you suggesting that the new house would serve as an ADU?
I'm suggesting that the trip house would be the ADU and the new house would be the new house.
You understand that the trip house predates the proposed new house, correct?
It predates what?
The proposed new house, correct?
Yeah.
Subpart B, and this is going to page 7, demonstrate that all applicable local zoning ordinance, building codes, standards, et cetera, have been met. You see that, correct?
Yes.
And I believe you testified it was news to you that the HDC decision is the subject of a live appeal.
And again, that's, I think I already stated that I'm not, aware of the appeals. It's
Okay.
not part of my work.
If we flip over to page 8, and we look at subparagraph I, which requires that the applicant demonstrate that the alteration or activity will not result in significant impacts to areas of historic and archaeological significance. And you testified extensively on what I'll say direct about that, correct?
Correct.
And are you aware in your practice before CRMC that CRMC asks local municipalities to weigh in regarding projects?
Yes,
And are you aware that the city of Newport weighed in on this project?
I am aware that there was a letter from, are they a city council? So I haven't read it, but yes, I am aware of that.
And now I think.
And,
So up on the screen is what's it's already in the record. It was identified as Exhibit B. It's an April 25th, 2025 letter from the city of Newport to CRMC. Have you seen this letter before?
I haven't, no.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at paragraph 3, which reads, "The city council voted at a meeting held on April 23rd, 2025, that it opposed the relief requested."
Okay,
So even though RIH PHC weighed in one way, it appears the city weighed in the other, correct?
Doc.
Can answer these.
Sustained.
If we turn to page 9 of your report, which addresses section 1.3.5 of the Red Book, policies for protection and enhancement of the scenic value of the coastal region. Do you see that?
yes,
And as is typical, the Red Book lists several policies first, and you begin your discussion regarding policy 4, correct?
correct.
Let's take a look at a few of them, beginning with the first, which states that the primary goal of all council efforts to preserve, protect, possible, restore the scenic value of the coastal region, retain the visual diversity and often unique visual character of the Rhode Island coast, as it is seen by hundreds of thousands of residents, tourists each year. Boats, bridges, such public vantage points as roadways, public parks. Is that, do you accept that as an accurate representation?
Verbatim, I couldn't remember that, but yes, I agree with your representation.
Are you aware that no house has ever stood where the proposed house is sited?
Yes,
So necessarily constructing a new building where none had previously existed would occlude a view, correct?
Objection.
are you talking about view from the water?
What's your,
Is the question, view of what?
be more specific, Attorney Parks?
Sure. Are you aware that building this house as proposed in this application would occlude for the very first time the public's view of Newport Harbor from Washington?
The CRMP is view from the water. Everything for scenic and aesthetic quality is when viewed from the water, not when viewed from Washington Street.
So I just read to you one of the policies of 1.3,
I understand.
which talks about views as seen both from the water and views as seen both from.
Read it
land.
again and give me that specific language because
Sure, let's
why don't we pull it up?
put it up. 1.3.5. It's there's a folder of Red Book excerpts on the drive.
Have it.
Page that is in the red.
So the red book is unfortunately not paginated.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
I
sorry.
bait stamp mine. It's page
You got it.
202, so it's pretty far in.
Yeah, it's right there. General policies. You have it.
Yep, it's
Can
just
you-
the very
can you-
first one.
Blow it up a little.
And just let me know once you.
Oh, now you blew it up too much. Each year from boats, bridges, public vantage points as roadways, boat parks.
So we're talking about visual diversity seen from both the water and from both land, correct?
But you have to. I stand corrected. You are pointing that out. Yep.
Okay, so I would repeat my question, which is, are you aware that building this new house as proposed would occlude for the very first time since Newport was founded in 1639, the public's view of the water from Washington Street?
Assuming that there is evidence.
Stained.
The
Just phrase it differently.
So I'm going to ask you to assume, for sake of argument right now, that there's no house where the current house is being proposed. Will you accept that?
correct.
And I'm going to ask you to assume, and I can put the plans in front of you, that the new proposed house has a roof ridge line of 47 feet, 10 inches above sea level. Will you accept that, or would you like to see the
I'll
plans?
accept that.
So do you have an opinion as to whether placing a 47-foot, 10-inch tall structure where one previously never existed might impact somebody's?
So you'd have to also look at, as the
Hold
hearing,
on, hold on. Well, he can certainly testify if he has an opinion, and we're assuming facts not in evidence.
I think that all those facts are in evidence. They're the applicant's own plans.
Well, not with regard to a view. And I don't know how he would know going back to 1600s whether there's ever been anything there.
Okay, we
or
can talk
Whether
about
you
it.
would know.
We can talk about it today. Have you ever, have you inspected the site?
oh, yes,
Okay, so you've walked along Washington Street?
yes.
Can you see the water from where that little driveway cut is just?
Portions of it. There's
Just-
a
just-
48-inch
please-
diameter
let me-
tree that's
let me finish.
easily the same height as that house you're talking about.
Let me finish my question, please, so
Okay.
that we can keep the record clear for the stenographer. You're familiar with that little cutout driveway that is just to the north of London Plane Tree? That London Plane Tree, which you refer to as a sycamore,
Sycamore maple.
correct?
Mhm.
Now, we'll come back to the tree in a moment. Were you able, standing from the public right of way, were you currently able to see the waters of Newport Harbor?
I can't answer that question with any accuracy. The last time I was on the property was in 2024, which was over 2 years ago. My job is to pull into the driveway and go inside the property. So I know there's a big tree there, and I know there's the trip house there. So if you want to, get me to say, can you see the water? I'm not going to be able to give you that with any accuracy.
So we established that. The record in this case, everything that's been submitted. I'm aware in the CRMC of objections that have come in. Photographs of the water from, given these objections to what is a pretty basic fundamental, and I'd request the hearing officer's indulgence to be able to pull those up and show the way.
But he's answered your question that he can't say one way or the other. It's been 2 years since he's been there.
Right, and I
So he's
can,
answered the question.
and I can refresh his recollection with information. Here.
Okay, go ahead.
Do we have access to that, Mark? Okay. I can forward you an email. Mark, I just forwarded you the objection invite.
This is an objection from a member of the public?
Correct.
It's part of the file.
See staff, see. Or, I mean,
Repeat. This is what the picture is. It shows a picture of the tree. Oh, I got you.
And ask it again. I think he's answered the question. He said he doesn't recall from the last time he was at the property. Fine.
given your.
So this is a picture of Newport Harbor with leaf off conditions from the tree we were talking. I've been on the property with leaf on conditions, and if I can extrapolate from this photograph where the leaves would be on the crown of this tree, yes, there would be a view when walking by, but a majority of that view would be obstructed by the tree from that location of the photograph.
Well, the question is, does that refresh your
Back
recollection?
down so I can read what he's
Rabideau,
arguing me about.
uh,
It's number 301. Yes,
does that refresh your recollection?
it does. Yeah, no.
Okay,
it
then you
does.
can answer the question.
Yeah, and I answered the question. That picture, from that picture with a leaf off condition, you can see the water.
So
I-
would putting a house, putting the new proposed house in the location as shown on negatively impact the view of Newport Harbor?
It would impact the view. Is the view are unique, often, if you can go back to the language.
So again, thank you.
No, because the language is
Mr. Rabideau,
relevant.
Mr. Rabideau, please,
It's,
you have an attorney.
If he wants
Understood.
to answer the question,
it was a yes or no question.
pending
and-
an
and
answer pending, cut off.
It was a yes or no question. If council would like to draw the test.
Sure.
Mhm.
That view would be
I-
changed if there's a house there, to answer
Move-
your question.
Move to strike.
That was the answer you wanted.
Mr. Rabideau, that refreshed your recollection, correct?
Correct.
And is it your testimony that you're unable to opine as to whether that would obstruct your view, new house?
No, it refreshed my memory. And what I said is if a house were put there, it would change the view of the picture that he showed me. I wouldn't,
I'm going to allow that.
I'm sorry?
I'm going to allow that.
Okay. Let's turn now to the second goal, 1.3.5.a. Every effort should be made to safeguard from obstruction significant views to and across the water from highways, scenic overlooks, public parks, and other vantage points enjoyed by the public. Do you see that goal?
yes,
And fair to say, this also concerns the view to and across the water from land-based vantage points. Would you agree with that?
yes.
Do you believe that constructing a new house where none previously existed would obstruct the view of the water from a roadway?
Well, the language is significant views. That's not a significant view based on that photograph you showed me. It's a view, but it's not a significant view. So you'd have to come up with a definition of significant in order to apply that standard.
Are you aware if significant view is defined in the Red Book?
No,
So according to you, that's not a,
the language says significant views. You asked me for my opinion.
Mhm.
And in my opinion, if I were writing a report, I would say that's not a significant view. So
Okay.
yes, in my opinion.
the third policy. The importance of the skyline as seen from tidal waters in determining the character of a view site must be recognized. It should, where possible, not be disrupted by visually intrusive structures. Do you see that goal?
I do.
That general policy. Mark, can we pull up the Melkert presentation? Yeah, it'll be drawing A105. It'll be under applicants. A105, so. There we go. Do you see the, showing you a drawing that was, I'll represent to you, was done by applicant's architect. Have you seen this drawing before?
I believe it's in the file, but I haven't really studied it.
Would you accept my representation that this is the architect's drawing of what the new proposed house would look like,
I will.
together with the trip house?
I will.
And looking at the top pictures, would you accept my representation that that is a view of the eastern facade of the structures, which would be the view looking from, which would be the vantage point you would see looking from the water?
Okay.
Given this drawing, is it your belief that the new structure is not visually disruptive to the skyline as shown along Washington?
And again, I have to revert you back to number 4 that says on sites in or adjacent to historic features, new structures should be designed to provide continuity with the existing scenic and historic character and relate that to the HPHC letter, which
Nope.
says it is not inconsistent with other historic homes on the street.
So I know you want to talk about number 4, but I want to talk about number.
No, you can't do number 3 without number 4. Number 4 is relevant because
So-
we're on a historic site. If this were not a historic site, I would agree with you.
So it's your belief then that these other goals don't matter? It's only number 4?
On historic sites, it's required, it preempts that third one. And then that brings in the Historical Preservation and Heritage Commission. And they've opined that it's not inconsistent with the area. So if it's not inconsistent with the area, it provides continuity with existing scenic and historic character.
Okay, I just want to understand your testimony. Your testimony is that general policy 4 subsumes general policy 3 in this case.
Because this site has a historic feature on it.
Okay, and can you point to me the language in 1.3.5 that says 1, 2, and 3 don't count when we're in a historic district?
The language is clear. On sites in or adjacent to historic features, it changes the definition.
Okay. Let's talk about section 1.1.7, which is the variance. And that is continuing down on page. See that?
I do.
And as you know, this property is adjacent to type 2 waters, correct?
Correct.
And type 2 waters are those with high scenic value,
What? I'm sorry.
high scenic value.
Correct.
And your report does not address how constructing a new second single-family home on a property maintains or restores areas of high scenic value.
My report addresses the consistency, as we pointed out, with 1.3.5.
And number 2, that's going on to page 10, is the requirement that the proposed alteration not result in significant adverse environmental impacts. Do you see that?
Yes,
And did you hear Mr. Principe's testimony when I inquired about the barge that made up part of 88 Washington Street?
correct.
And was that similarly news to you, or were you aware of that?
I was not aware of the barge. No.
So you don't have an opinion then as to what that barge may or may not have contained when it was put onto the property?
I would not have an opinion as what it may or may not have contained. I can point out that the CRMC staff lists all the other applications that from 1985 to 2005 that were required to first construct a timber pier, then maintain the failed bulkhead, and then construct the replacement seawall. So if there were materials beneath there, it would have to be, you'd have to check those files to see if there was actually removal of material and new material brought in for that construction.
So I appreciate your reading of what CRMC staff may or may not be. My question is as to what you are aware of.
I said I wasn't aware.
So your opinion that this proposed alteration will not result in significant adverse environmental impacts did not consider barge or fill materials.
The proposal will not result in adverse environmental impacts.
That wasn't my question. Would you mind reading my question back?
Oh, yes. No, it did not.
Number 3, due to conditions at the site in question, the applicable standards cannot be met. See that? That's page 11 of your.
I do.
And are you aware that the trip house has stood on the property since the 1960s?
1965, as I recall.
And do you recall what year your client purchased the property?
I believe it was 2020.
So the existing site condition when your client purchased the property was that trip house was already on.
Correct.
Number 4, the modification requested by the applicant is minimum variance to the applicable standards necessary to allow a reasonable alternate use site. See that?
I do.
Are you aware of a current use of the site,
Current use of what?
the site, property?
Yes,
And what is that?
I believe that the trip house is a habitable structure and people live there.
And is having a house that's a habitable structure a reasonable use of a single family zoned residential property?
It is a reasonable use, yes.
Turning to number 5, and that's to page 12 of your report. That the requested variance, the applicable standards is not due to prior action of applicant or applicant's successor. You see that?
I do.
Would you agree with me that the size of the variance request is driven by the to the structural lot coverage that would occur due to the proposed house?
Could you repeat that, please?
Would you agree with me that the size of the variance is due to increased structural lot coverage caused by the,
Yes,
and that applicant is in fact the one who proposed building?
correct.
So the size of the variance request is necessarily driven by the size of applicant's proposed house.
The standard or the variance question I understand your question fully. This variance question is normally answered relative to whether or not the applicant or predecessor in title did anything to the lot itself in terms of changing the configuration of the lot, subdividing the lot such that it triggered a variance. So that's how I answered this question with that reference in mind. But I agree with you, the size of the house is the structural lot coverage increase exceeds 100%. So that creates the variance required.
Number 6, due to the conditions of the site in question, standards will cause the applicant. See that section?
I do.
And is it your opinion that applicant would suffer an undue hardship not building a home on the site?
The applicant's family situation is such that the current trip house is not suitable for his needs. And they are proposing a second house, which would be suitable for their needs. They were not allowed to do an addition to the trip house, which is why they had to propose a second house. Had they been allowed to do the addition to the trip house, they would have been able to reduce the variance, but they were not allowed because of the historic character and the historic feature that's on the site.
Do you know where applicant resides?
I do not.
Did you review the application as part of your preparation of your report?
I'm sorry. I know he does not reside permanently on this property, if that's your question.
Is it news to you that he resides in Florida?
He may have a house in Florida. I'll take your word for that.
We can pull the application if you would like. but
That's fine.
I will represent to you that that on his application, applicant lists his home address as an address in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay. And let me clarify, I was retained by Hull Cove on this. So I was not retained directly by Mr. Rue. So when if I seem to not know certain questions about Mr. Rue, it's because my client was Hull Cove.
Sure, but regardless, and I certainly appreciate that, but regardless of
So
of the retention, right? The facts as applied to this case don't change standards, correct?
Oh, no, if you're telling me he has a permanent residence in Florida, I will acquiesce to that.
Thank you. Nothing further.
We good?
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any follow-up?
I just have a couple questions for you.
Sure.
I apologize.
Yeah, that's okay.
Just dealing with the issue of the view that was brought up. If you can look at exhibit number 2 that Mr. Principe introduced. Is the applicant retaining view corridors on the north of the property and down the driveway out to Newport Harbor?
Say that again, please.
Is the applicant maintaining view corridors from Washington Street along the north side of the property?
Yes, there's a view corridor between the applicant's proposed house and the adjacent house.
And are they creating a view corridor between the trip house and the new structure, the proposed structure?
Narrow one, but yes.
Now, Mr. Parks asked you questions about, strike that. Getting to your report, page 11. I want to follow up on a question that Mr. Parks had to you about, what is reasonable for the site? I think you indicated living in the trip house was reasonable. Is it unreasonable to request greater living space?
No, it's not unreasonable. As a matter of fact, it's quite common throughout the coastal zone, to be able to do that. That's why they have the standards that are in place for variances.
And just addressing criteria number 5 for the variances. Mr. Parks asked you if the size of the new house was triggering the need for the variances. Correct? You remember that?
Correct.
Now, isn't it converse that the small size of the trip house triggers the need for the variance because of the increase in size from such a small structure, larger structure?
Correct. And that is clearly pointed out in the staff report.
I don't have any further questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good seeing you again, Mr. Hearing Officer.
Or where you gonna?
Oh, we're going to take a 10-minute recess.